Why is the Steam Deck so important in the handheld PC market? The short answer is how comparatively low the price of the Steam Deck is. For the long answer, we need some context. Ever since GPD released the Win in October of 2016, the handheld PC space not only increased in popularity, but also got more and more competitive thanks to crowdfunding sites such as Kickstarter and Indiegogo. But there's still one issue: price. Even the GPD Win 2, which released in May of 2018, still will cost you roughly £600, about $830, and that's not even mentioning devices like the Aya Neo, which can cost well over £1,000. I'm not saying that they're not worth that price necessarily, but considering you're looking at mid to high-end PC money at that point, it's way too much for me personally. The mid-range model of the Steam Deck, here at £460 or $529, is not as cheap as I'd like, but it's definitely a tempting offer to me, as I've really wanted a handheld PC like this, but I haven't got one because of their hefty price. The only difference between the models is the storage. The base model is using eMMC storage. If you didn't know, it's basically an SD card, so you'll get similar performance to a hard drive with it, and I'd imagine the read and write speeds won't be higher than 100 megabytes per second. If you're only gaming on it and doing light work, then you shouldn't notice too much of a difference. In fact, I'm currently making a video about a low-end tablet that has 64 gigs of eMMC storage. It will be linked here when it's done, but I'm still torn between the mid and the low-end storage versions, as I still don't know if the extra 100 is worth an SSD for, especially considering how cheap storage is these days. That's the only bit that really annoyed me about this announcement, is that because you could literally buy a 1TB SSD and the base model for the same price as a 256GB mid-range model, but unfortunately there's no expandable storage besides the SD card slot, which basically all micro SD cards run at eMMC speeds anyway, and ironically SSDs are cheaper from my experience. But at least this means if you can only afford the base model, you're really not missing out on much here, fortunately. I'm not going to comment much on the specs, as there's plenty of other videos about that you can go watch, but it's basically an Xbox Series S with the GPU performance of a base PS4, to put it in perspective. Some people are apparently annoyed that it's only an 800p display, but if you've ever played or owned a Switch, the issue isn't the screen res there, rather many games don't even get close to 720p in handheld mode, because the performance to battery ratio just isn't there. Hence I doubt many AAA games will even run at 800p, so personally that's not an issue for me. In fact, it might even be a benefit when running Linux distros, as in my experience they don't scale well to high DPI displays, so some UI elements can be really hard to read at that point. Hopefully, if Valve fully commit to this price point, as Gabe Newell mentioned in an interview that he realised how important the price point was, then we will see other competitors like Dell and Microsoft possibly also make their own handhelds, hence making the PC handheld market not only cheaper but also better for us, the consumers. It may even eat into the Switch's market share, although not by much I'd imagine. Did I mention that it's still a PC? As this means you can put other OSs like Linux and Windows 10 or 11 on it, so you can expect a video on it when I get my hands on one. So that's the video. If you liked it, go buy a Virtual Boy. Wario Land's a pretty decent game, and I've got a video about Linux and Windows here. See ya.